Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with more NFT Live Festival presented by PodFest Asia. Coming right up, an interview which is conducted live with Nicholas Gerrier. Gerrier, I hope I pronounced his name correct. NFT marketing and promotional services. Also, the manager for karensworld.io, which is an art meme coin. I think today there's been a lot of attention on meme coins again after that tweet by Elon Musk, right, on Bitcoin. So we're going to have him coming on to maybe share with us some knowledge about tokenomics and market liquidity. And of course, some of the work that he's doing for his clients over at the NFT promotional services, as well as his managerial role in karensworld.io. So without further ado, let's invite him to the studio. Nicholas, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. And yes, you definitely pronounced it right, depending on where you're from.
Okay. So thanks for that. And we're going to start and get cracking right away. So many things to discuss, right? Let's start with your story first. We would love to hear how you got started and how the journey has been for you so far.
Oh, okay. So this is going to be like the craziest story. It's going to be like every other crypto story. I got in like maybe 3-4 months ago. And basically, you get in, you lose a lot of money, and you start looking for ways to like try and make more money, right? When you're just on the crypto itself. And I got looking into like NFTs, hearing about the boom, things like that. And it was like, well, what's there, right? So it was just a matter of taking a look, and I ended up finding a Weensy card, like a Weensy Go card. It was the sophisticated Doge card. That's like easily like the prize in my collection right there, right? Because it was like the first one I found. As soon as I seen it, I fell in love. So it was like, yeah, I gotta have that. So the collection started from there, and like, I grabbed a few more cards from Weensy himself, and then from there it was, just pushing him nonstop, and others started to notice that, and that's where it's just it's grown from there. That's the only way to really put it. They basically see the shilling skills, and they're like, hey, come work for us.
That sounds really exciting. And of course, that's how you landed the role, right? In this particular organization, can I say that? And Karens.io sounds like a really interesting company. Tell us more about that.
So basically, how that started was the coin creator, Leo, he ended up just releasing it as an experiment, like all together. He's, here's a note, like, it is what you make of it kind of deal, it's going to be community driven and so on. And we ended up like having it airdropped to us, like as like an NFT community. Like there was a few of us that had gotten it, like a Weensy and so on. And like, that's where it was just like, all right, let's see what we can make of this. Right now, not everyone had the free time to be able to like put in on Karen's World, things like that. But we had no organization. We had nothing, right, to start. So basically that's where it was like, all right, let's get socials up and running at least. Let's try to, gather our masses in, and we organize and structure from there. And that's basically what we've been doing over the past 2 weeks since it launched. We managed to get all the socials up within about 24 to 48 hours for the most part. It's just been an absolutely crazy journey. I've literally been putting in about 16 to 22 hour days nonstop, aside from Mother's Day there. So
yeah, I think you messaged me, and earlier on you told me that you've been working 22 hours a day. Is that right?
Yeah. It's gotten pretty nuts that way. So like I'll literally wake up and I'll start instantly, and I'll go until I pass out, and then same thing the next day, right? So like on average I tend to get about maybe 2 to 5 hours sleep, but like there's the odd day where I might get 8 hours, so like hence the 16 hours sometimes, right? So
that's pretty much played full at the moment for you, right? I think I've been doing this festival for the last 2 days already, so I've been putting in similar hours as well, like you, because I was spotlighting like 50 over digital artists and awesome people like you. So it's like, of course, when you're going at it because of your passion for what you're doing, so you don't kind of like really prioritize eating or meals or even sleep, right? So that's really incredible to hear that you're working with multiple NFT artists as well, and also promoting them, managing them, and also involved in this managing these new alt meme coins. and
It's
so many people, right,
it's
requiring your time and
managing them
effort.
in some regards. So like for Weensy, for instance, it's not so much managing him; he can manage himself, and he does a great job at it. It's more assisting him in helping the planning for future development of like the Weensy Go cards, for instance, right? So there's not an overlot that I can share on that, but I can share that basically the idea is we're looking at maybe making a website and developing an ecosystem similar to what Pokemon will be doing with their eggs and like the Unidragons and things like that, right? So we're basically looking at like a different style in how it's done, but a similar structure in how it's done, right? So, maybe have like an ecosystem where the cards can essentially be trained, if you will, right? And then you can, have these $1,000,000 meme battles and things like that, right? So it would get really interesting to see where it can actually go in particular. So it's all in development at this point right now, right? So again, not too much that I can release that way, but I can give like a general concept of where that's going, where it's its own website, battle zone, store, things like that, right? So
Can I screen share your website? Is it available for public view yet? Your
for the
karens.io?
yeah, absolutely. Karensworld.io is available. We also do have several like different socials. So we have facebook.com / leave Karen on the moon. We have Twitter / Karen underscore, or sorry, we Twitter / coin underscore Karen. We tried for Karen underscore coin, but like that one, someone had taken that one, and I think it was either a trader or someone trying to like make a rug coin or something like that. But like basically the concept behind Karen here is we wanted to make a new meme coin altogether, right? So Leo, he had turned around, he had created this experiment. It's basically a fork of Safe Moon itself. So instead of 10%, it's actually taking 5%. And it's a 1% burn, while 4% actually then goes back to the actual hodlers of Karen, based on what percentage that you actually hold in that regard.
So if I want to own Karen coin tokens as well, right? I can just go to this particular Pancake Swap portal,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you just go to Pancake Swap there, and you input the contract address as like a custom token, and you have it paired with BNB, absolutely, you can definitely grab that up.
What's your take on Elon Musk, tweeting about Bitcoin being a very energy, a high consumption coin, and of course, it's causing a lot of ripples, right? And does it impact on the meme coins in terms of like going to the red, but it's actually going up instead?
So that's an interesting question. I think Elon Musk, kind of needs to down a little bit, right? So if he's going to turn around and shill it in one mouthful and basically a month later in the next mouthful say, oh, it's bad, well, you're going to look like an ass doing so, right? So not to call Elon Musk an ass, but he's kind of being an ass right now, right? Kind of manipulating the markets to a degree. Personally, I would avoid Dogecoin at this point because he's already basically said that he's going to have like a Dogecoin rocket mission next year. So that's basically saying he's eventually at some point going to sell his Dogecoin, which is going to more or less rug everyone involved, right? So certain coins like that I may not even really look at this time. I'll follow them and I'll probably hold a little bit just in case, but I wouldn't put my eggs in that basket in particular. Now, when it comes to like market fluctuations and things like that he ends up causing with these things, I find that some meme coins can kind of act like a stable coin that way in regards, right? So like if it's paired to Bitcoin or BNB or whatever in that regard, if it's sliding and your coin is actually still getting actual market backing from your liquidity providers, your coin will actually stay somewhat steady as opposed to that one sliding. And you can actually then do scalp trading against Bitcoin in that regard using meme coins. So it all depends on what the actual meme coin is being paired with and traded against in particular.
Yeah, and of course we have to put a disclaimer out there. This platform, all these are our independent opinions, right? It doesn't represent whether you should go your maybe plan or allocate your investment a certain way. We're definitely not responsible for that, but here we're just presenting information and opinion. And moving on,
Exactly. It's this is not financial advice. I just want to make that clear. It's
yeah,
more how the market actually works so people understand better.
we're definitely not financial advisors here, but these are just some of the options that we are just presenting to you. And I think, Nicholas, so far you've been, great in offering us some different perspective as well. I just want to know more about, your organization. I shouldn't say organization; it's a DAO, right? Because basically there's no centralized committee, and basically it's run by just a few people who are really enthusiastic about pushing this project to the moon, right? What exactly are your goals?
Our goals in general are basically just to take Karen to the moon and leave her there. That was it just
Is
started
there
as like
any,
a joke experiment,
use
everything like that,
case
and from there,
that,
it's everything's just grown from there. That's where we've gotten the website up. We're planning on like eventually selling NFTs. The NFTs will then be used to 50% would go towards like market backing, things like that. The other 50% would go towards like ads, promo, contests, minting additional NFTs to move forward, things like that, right? Now, with the coin basically being auto deflationary and adding that additional liquidity backing to the market over time, that will essentially keep raising the coin up. So can't
it's
really go wrong.
that at this moment there are no real use cases, right?
Yeah. Basically, right now, there's no actual real use cases, and that's one of the things that we're actually working on. If you actually go over the Karen's World IO roadmap there, we actually discuss actually like creating a game and everything like that as well, right? So we actually do have like a small little development team that's actually like working on things like that, trying to create like these little games where you'll be able to use the Karen tokens in game to then, purchase kind of like a microtransaction, if you will, right? Similar to what some of the Tron games are in that regard.
So no rug pull possible. That is, some.
Yeah, no. That's one of the things that we actually definitely avoid. Now, we do keep our liquidity pool unlocked currently, and that's more because of when the coin was created, and we're still trying to figure out exactly the coding on that. Because again, this was a complete experiment by like, guys that just, hey, I wonder if, kind of deal, right? So it was kind of a bad idea not having that, time lock on the liquidity and everything like that, right? But like what we've been able to do to actually counter that is actually have our own like whales that are like part of the actual Pokemon Bitcoin Unidragon Holders Club. So basically, there's this little club on Telegram, and it's all the like Bitcoin Unidragon holders from Pokemon. These things are like supposedly worth like about 10 ETH or more, right? So absolutely insane prices on these things, and like these guys are whales for the most part. So we actually have one of the whales actually like backing most of the liquidity in our market. And what we do is we actually provide incentives and options for the liquidity providers that way. So for instance, we have a rare NFT contest where we've created Karen Unidragons. And we're going to be giving them out to the top 20 liquidity providers that way. And then we're also going to have a special one of one like variation of the Karen Unidragon for our top liquidity provider. So we try to give that additional value backing to the liquidity providers to basically protect against impermanent loss that way, right? So that being a real thing, we want to try and protect them, and it's just here's some NFTs to do so, right? Whether you guys choose to resell them, do whatever you want, right? It's yours. You've earned it. So
I think the fact that artists like Winzy, Midas, and now even I think Pokemon.
Snoop Doge. Oh yeah, we got Snoop Doge. We got
Yeah.
Quinn. Even Nakamoto. Like we got quite a few going right now. It's gotten pretty crazy.
This legitimize what you're doing, right? I mean, having all these big names involved.
Yeah,
and all these
that's
artists.
pretty much it. It's all these big artists are just coming in. They're just like, hey, what are you guys doing? And then we explain it, we show them, and they're just like, okay, we want to be a part of this.
So I've been looking at charts as well. It's just going up and up and up to the moon. So this case in point, right, probably means that it's something that is gonna work out pretty well in the short term. How about in the long term? What's your predictions on that?
Well, currently right now, there's been a little bit of a drop this morning and everything. We had a bit of a sell-off, and that's perfectly fine. People can do what they want. Um,
After the
but
Elon Musk,
you know,
yeah.
yeah, so the Elon Musk thing with the sell-offs on like BNB and so on, it's actually affecting the price of our coins as well in that regard, right? But we actually like had a few like Karen holders sell off this morning. You know, they see a market dip and they sell off. So that's perfectly fine by us. The paper hand dead weight whales, they can go and we'll just buy it up, buy the dips.
Right. Okay. So I understand that you're doing a lot of promotional work for NFT artists as well. So when we're talking about the struggles that artists face, right? When it comes to marketing their work, why do you think that they are struggling with it so much? Is it because they just don't have the time, or they just 100% focused on their art?
I think they're more focused on the actual art itself than the actual promotion side of it, right? So like everyone wants to make a piece and like, hey, this is going to be great. Everyone's going to love it. In fact, that's partly how I got into the NFT market, was actually exploring it and like, hey, maybe this is a way to make a buck, right? So like when you mint one and you discover that it doesn't sell and you sit there for months and months, you get really deterred really fast, right? And like that's one of the things that like Snoop Doge, for instance, has actually experienced recently, where he wasn't getting much of a following. He wasn't, really pushing the socials the way he should on that, right? Like there's our little club within like the Weensy Discord server and everything, where he was showing them, right? And like all the mods, admins, we love it, right? But it wasn't really getting out to everyone. So that's where myself and another mod, Chris Rays, what we've done is we had actually paired up here, and we're now pushing Snoop Doge together. So he's the one. If you've seen Holy Doge, which is the Jesus Elon Musk holding the Doge, that's him.
Oh.
So it's one of those ones where people steal it and it goes around the internet, and no one ever knows where it came from. But on that Snoop Doge, like on Facebook, if you look just above the mountain in the background, you'll see a small little Snoop Doge, almost looking like a cloud.
What are we looking at right now on the screen? Is this one of the NFT drops by one of your artists, Midas, recently?
Yeah, yeah. So what this is basically Midas is now starting an actual line called Nifty Watches, and as you see, we did a play on the NFT there for the branding. So what these are in particular, they're actually like functional watches in that regard. Now the first one here wasn't functional; he couldn't quite get the gear, the timing right on it. But there's supposed to be another one coming very soon, and it'll be dropped on Decentraland. That one will be functional and usable by the avatar.
Right. Let's move on and maybe talk about how long you've been actually doing active in this NFT space, right? Before you actually decided to start getting involved in promotional services for NFT artists. And was it because you were approached by them, or you found that this is something that is your MO and is something that could really help contribute to this space?
Uh, well, that's an interesting question. So basically, it does kind of go to my MO in a regard. Years ago, I used to do like music promotion, things like that for like basically a few signed bands, like side artists and so on. So like for instance, the band Sum 41. Their one guitarist, Dave Bask, he actually has a side project called Black Cat Attack, right? Uh, I would book them in like 3-4 times a year if I could, right? Along with multiple other bands, a few bands from Napalm Records, things like that, right? So I'd basically got my foot in the door through promotional services that way, learned the whole game, everything like that, right? But when it came to NFTs and everything like that, again, I'd only gotten into like the crypto market like maybe end of January, beginning of February kind of deal, right? And as for NFTs, I'd say I'd gotten into that maybe beginning of March, roughly. So I'd only been like maybe a month into crypto, losing money badly, and I started looking at other ways where it's like maybe I should invest my money elsewhere. NFTs are climbing, even if they're not, and the prices come down. ETH is still climbing. They're based on ETH. let's give it a shot. Let's see if it at least stabilizes some losses for me, things like that, right? But from there, that's where things actually ended up growing. I kind of fell into the old promotional skill, where it's like I wanted my cards to be more valuable as well, right? So how do I make them more valuable? I make them sell faster, because then there's less of them, right? So rarity. That's how NFTs work in that regard, right? So it was basically, all right, let's chill. And from there, that's where I just pushed Weensy. From there, it grew into pushing Midas, Shaquin, Snoop Doge, and just so many others right now.
How about these previous projects that you managed for, the musician community, right? Like you mentioned about some 41 and some of the other bands on the Napalm label. Like,
Yeah,
recently when Kurt Cobain's the last session photo shoot was sold as an NFT. And the photographer was actually on this festival earlier this
oh
morning,
wow,
Singapore time, talking about it. And, like a lot of all these artists or musicians, right?
yeah.
Especially from the punk rock, or even the metal fraternity. What do you think about their perspective of NFTs? Like, is this something that they want to avoid, or are they open-minded about it? Like, when I'm thinking
I
about Kurt
honestly,
Cobain, yeah,
I honestly think
you know,
they should be a lot more open-minded in the regard for NFTs in that space. There's a huge, huge opportunity that way. Like, you don't just have to use YouTube as, a way to get your video out. You can literally create an NFT and pass it around that way, right? If someone decides to sell it, then you still made money off the commissions, right? Same with their albums and singles, things like that, right? They can even use NFTs as a way to do like alternative album arts, things like that, right? So there's so many various opportunities for artists in that regard that they should definitely keep their options open.
100%. I think you nailed it on the head. It's also a marketing tool, right? And
Mhm.
instead of keeping all your B sides or some of your alternate
Exactly.
artwork, for example, in the vaults and never being discovered for the next 30 years, right? Why not just immediately NFT it? So, how about all these musicians, right? When they are looking at it, are they like anti system, anti establishment, and looking at NFT as a way to even like further, their agenda. Like I know that Kurt Cobain, right? If he's still alive today, most likely, I mean, the photographer was involved in the last session commented this morning that he will embrace it. Yeah, he would actually, look at this is a really great way to stick it up to the banks, the institutions. This is a way for him to actually go past the middleman. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of interesting the crosshair that we're at now in that regard. So basically, crypto has become so mainstream that for some artists in that regard, joining crypto is the mainstream that way. So to join it would be going with the establishment, whereas so it's interesting. It's really interesting to see that in that regard, right? So it's like some will join it, some will avoid it in that regard, and it's just I can't figure it out in particular, but all I can do is encourage people. This is the way forward for sure. I personally think that there's a lot more opportunity for smart contracts in particular. For instance, I think that there could be licensing or subscription to NFTs in that regard. So, like, consider this: if Spotify or Netflix were to basically convert their catalogs into NFTs and have people subscribe to them, right? You would then have like an actual licensing system in that regard. So then you could then rent out NFTs to like museums or whatever.
Yeah, I think the sky's the limit, and there's so much creative things that are happening right now. I think eBay just was it yesterday they allowed NFTs to be actually traded as well, right? Although they actually
Yeah, yeah.
allow
So what
US to be
that is
transacted.
is
Yeah.
more in regard to like apps, like in apps, like Tops and VV, things like that, right? So, like for instance, one of the gifts that I'd received from one of the guys in the Karen group, uh, it was a DeLorean, like a NFT DeLorean, right? It was pretty cool. I thought, right? I love Back to the Future. So I was, looking at it, it was like, okay, well, you can only sell these in app, right? And basically, that's what they're doing is they're selling them out of app on eBay to other collectors in that regard, and then doing the transfers within app.
How many musicians in your collective or in your community are interested to get into this space at this moment? And do they, want to also bug the system and look at, a way to extend their ethos and, many of the fans are already using their images as like profile icons even before, they're going to like plan something on a drop, right? Might as well legitimize it and use NFT as a way to prove this ownership, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and, like that's just it. It's more proof of ownership at this point, right? Like the way to look at it is NFTs are kind of like the new DRMs. If you remember about 20 years ago with digital rights management, you'd pop a DVD or a CD into a computer, cannot play, don't have the digital rights management, right? Same idea. That's kind of what NFTs are. I've had friends like, why should I pay for an NFT, right? And they, turn around and try to send it to me like, look, I can just steal it and send it. And they try and it won't send, right? And that's because all these websites and all these different apps are now interlinking into the actual blockchain itself, right? Like for instance, BitTorrent token. That one is in particular to like BitTorrent, Facebook, Twitter, things like that, right? So those networks kind of create the algorithms for the token itself.
And those who are against it, are they the fans? Majority fans who are against, artists actually going to this NFT space?
Sorry, what's that?
Do you think that there are some bands, right, who are reluctant to actually either mince their
Yeah,
work
there's
in
definitely some
NFT?
that are reluctant in
Are
that
the fans
regard.
responsible for this? Their hesitant, reaction to get into the space immediately is because of how they think their fans will react. Like this is a cash grab, right?
In some regards, yes. I think what the smarter route to do is basically like release it as like a very cheap made NFT in that regard, right? So like I would probably wait for like smart chain NFTs to come along, so that way your minting isn't going to cost you any more than like $1, $2 kind of deal. Same if you're sending things like that, right? But in regard to like your actual value on it, then you could basically say, hey, $10, $15, whatever, right? And then only release so many and basically let the fans and the market carry from there. Or you can release an unlimited amount. It's completely up to you. You could even release it as, let's say, here's just my album art, but here's the unlockable content, which includes the album. There's so many various different ways that actually could be done, but I do find that there are some bands in particular that will be hesitant that way. So for instance, Monster Truck, for instance, they're not one of my clients, but I am friends with a few of them. Some of them are into crypto, but some of them are very hesitant about the NFT markets in regards as well, despite watching, other people like Kings of Leon release albums that way, right? So I think as it moves along, as it progresses, I think you're going to see a lot more different types of art moving into NFT spaces, but I think you're also going to see a lot more variations of NFTs and smart contracts as well. So for instance, with IBM now turning their patents into NFTs, it's really only a matter of time until we start turning, laws into NFTs. Why not? Right? So everything's going to be an NFT or a smart contract eventually. Like even if you own a Tesla, and you and your wife are paying for it together in some regard, it's basically going to determine what level of ownership that each person has, things like that, right? So we're definitely moving towards a smart contract and NFT future in that regard. And again, with NFTs being kind of like copyrights, imagine like a VR 3D realm where unless you pay to access something, you won't see it, you won't hear it, you won't anything. It'll just be white, right? Uh, so in that regard, could you imagine like Dawn dish soap charging money for an NFT to view the commercial and know what product's coming next? It's completely crazy where this could go.
Yeah, and you mentioned about IBM. I think the patent thing, right? That's another form of NFT called ENFT. E stands for enterprise, right? So we are
Yeah.
going to see many laws that will get cleared up as well. We have invited a few NFT attorney, law for NFT lawyers to come on the show to maybe clarify some copyright issues, especially you see so many parody art out there. I think that's an area
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
great.
So that was one thing I had actually noticed. So the artist that had actually created like the piece on the Karen page and everything, you'll notice on the T-shirt there's Holy Doge there, right?
Yeah,
So
I noticed that.
the consent wasn't there technically, but when I had spoke with the artist Snoop Doge and everything like that, he was like, you know what? As long as I made someone laugh, I'm good with it.
That's great. I think that's the attitude, and that's what everyone in the space loves to see, right? Everyone support one another, and it's either like artists buying other artists' art, or musicians checking out other musicians' drops, right? I think that's all good for the community, and even I think artists like Kurt Cobain, right? I think if he's still alive today, he has always been a great supporter of the art scene, and he'll probably have a few NFT art collectibles in his public wallet. So I think
Yeah.
this is where the whole community can really work together instead of like oh, I'm against it, I'm pro it, or and divided. I think just give it a try, and the
And
one it
that's
goes
pretty much
well,
it.
I love it.
Myself and Chris Rays, he goes by Demigods on Twitter there and everything, or sorry, like on Telly and Discord and so on. But me and him in particular, like we're pushing in that direction where it's basically like who can we move next, like who's going to be the next hot thing, right? And like when you look at a lot of Snoop Doge's paintings in particular, they're all classical, right? So it's basically taking like that old classic and then just adding the Doge to it, right? And some of them are just absolutely amazing. They really are.
Yeah, we have forgot to maybe touch more on your marketing and promotional service. Do you do that as a freelancer, or you have a specific entity set up just for that, providing
So
of that?
I literally am freelancing at the time being. Chris Rays and myself, we are slowly working on getting all of that set up and everything. So it's going to be quite the journey forward still.
So we definitely want to take this opportunity to ask you, what is your advice for NFT artists?
Uh, don't give up. Like if you're using it as an outlet, don't give up. It doesn't matter if others are like not following you or not seeing it or not buying it. Just don't give up.
That's a really good advice. And your future ambitions or any side projects that you want to mention?
Okay. So there's let's see, there's Karen's World. There's something we're working on, me, Chris, Rays, and Midas together. We're actually, aside from the nifty watches there, we're also going to be working on another thing similar to the Pokemon. Basically, it's going to be like Polydragons in that regard. Again, can't release too much information, but that's one of the projects moving forward. Aside from that, we also got the Weensy Go, and then from there, like it just goes on and on. There's also Hodler's Grid. So that one, I was actually just recently hired on by Illuday, Emmanuel there. So that's where the idea behind Hodler's Grid is to kind of take your wallet as a slot, like your profile on Rarible, right? And it's kind of like day trading, right? So you hold it until someone meets your price kind of deal, right? You can drop your price if you want, but like you're going to lose money, right? So it's kind of a who's who on who's got the diamond hands that way.
That's really interesting, and definitely will be keeping an eye on your future exploits and all these exciting side projects that are coming up. So do give us a shout out or hit us up whenever you are dropping something new, and we'll try to promote it as well. And we
Yeah,
do have a new
absolutely.
Discord server. I just set it up like 2 nights ago, so I think there are 50 people there already. To maybe share some of your content as well, and get involved, and hopefully we can all find some collaborative. Work together because we're right here in Asia and you're all the way in US, right? The best way for us to
I'm
communicate.
actually in Canada, but yeah.
Canada, yeah, Canada is still pretty far away. So
Yeah.
let's continue this conversation in the Discord server, and I look forward to you coming back on and updating us on your audio project in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a absolute pleasure being with you and your audience today. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Any last words or message to our audience who are replaying this on a podcast replay later on their AirPods or smart speakers?
Yeah, karensworld.io and leave Karen on the moon.
URLs right below, so go check it out. I love the website, by the way. Well designed. So
Thank you,
job.
Leo. Leo handled that for us. Thank you.
All right, I'll see you around. Yeah, you take care. Take care of yourself over there. Bye-bye.
Take care, Wayne. Bye.
Cheers. Nicholas Gerrier, check him out at currentsworld.io, where he's part of this community that is really trying to bring this to the moon. And it'll be very interesting to see how meme coins, make a further progress. It seems that they're doing pretty well. And whenever Bitcoin is down, right, meme coins or altcoins go up. So that's the trend. And we're going to continue to see whether that will continue in longevity. And the next guests that are coming up are a bunch of musicians. Totally my tribe, just like the NFT, community. The musicians will be coming on to talk about their latest music releases, some of their new side projects, and whether they will be doing anything in the NFT space as well. So we have the frontman of Odonis, another Canadian, the Canadian band that plays industrial electronic music. So they'll be coming on, I think, in about half an hour's time. And we also have Chloe Alexander, who last appeared on PodFest Asia, tribute to Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. I think she's going to maybe update us about her perspective on this NFT world as well. So I'm going to take a short break. I'll be right back. And we're back. Coming up, we have Mark Hewitt, who is Chief Sustainabilist from a private company, who is coming on to maybe shed some light on key sustainability issues. I think we can borrow his wisdom on his knowledge on these areas, as well as how, using his Lydian Foundation work, he's seeking to actually establish an digital infrastructure that has open standards. So without further ado, let's welcome him on our podcast virtual stage.
Well, thank you. Hi, Wayne. Good afternoon.
Hi, finally, we are meeting, virtually.
Yes,
we had a conversation, I think a week or a half ago, right, on WhatsApp, and that was quite a very interesting call. And I thought that it would be a great idea to have you on our festival and educate us right here in Asia and tell us, exactly, your story. I think maybe we'll start with your story, and we'd love to hear how you got started and how the journey has been for you so far.
Oh, life is just exciting for me. It's always been one of those things where the things we do is like being a conductor of an orchestra. It's like music. I'm one of those very strange people that have a remarkable mind for mathematics and patterns. Even though I oftentimes really consider myself a physicist, my doctorate's always in math. And I've used this framework to help us do some remarkable things. I was one of the chief architects with Motorola on something called the Artist Network, which was eventually acquired and became the BlackBerry that everybody's familiar with. And the Iridium project, I wrote the protocols that make the satellites talk to each other, which was an exciting framework. And what else? I got involved with a cellular group that was building out cellular infrastructure. I mean, this is how old I am. I was literally one of the founders of building out cellular infrastructure. And we ended up we figured at one point it was about a quarter of the U.S. Rural cellular infrastructure, which was an amazing event. And I ended up using a lot of the math criteria in what we oftentimes call artificial intelligence, but back in the early days of computational research, we really just called it pattern research. We used fuzzy logic and things like that to help us define software that would define patterns, which really aided in our financial and our design models. So I was really fortunate. One of the companies I started in the late 90s became very successful, and Google liked it a lot. So they bought it. And I kind of semi-retired at that point. I started running around the country, getting on platforms, trying to teach how critical our infrastructure and broadband was to the future of our education or healthcare, and basically our future economies. And then I came across a couple of colleagues. One of my thesis documents back in the old days was a mathematical proof that prime numbers were actually fractals, but I couldn't prove it yet because we didn't have the computational resources to prove it. Anyway, the other two mathematicians had a similar line, and so we ended up developing what we now call Fibonacci math. And while much of it is still in hypothetical arenas, I'm actually using Fibonacci math for very advanced, I'm not going to call it quantum proof, but it is, I've completely changed how we do encryption, as an example. Once you find that I can predict prime numbers, you have to change how you go about cycling information. And one of the projects that we got engaged in with my math is called the Agile Fractal Grid project, and it is a fractal utilizing advanced AI models to manage, as an example, microgrids. So we did it. We did one project, and I'm kind of proud of it. I think I sent you a link to the City Zenith project. Do you want to throw that up for the audience?
Sure, it's the one which is the with the Sydney University of Sydney URL.
No. Go down to the City Zenith one. I just sent you. I sent you a link to one of our videos on it. You see it?
Okay,
There?
1 second. The one with the YouTube, right? Okay.
Yeah,
I think
right.
I'm gonna open the YouTube and gonna watch this. Yeah.
Okay.
Good grammar and spelling are important.
Of
Oh.
course, it always starts with an ad. That's YouTube these days.
Oh,
So 1
oh my
second.
goodness! I subscribed to YouTube a long time ago. I don't like to listen to ads.
I should do that maybe
Yes.
immediately after this. So I'm gonna just screen share this particular video that you have recommended. City Zenith, New Mexico presentation, right? Let's have a look.
Okay.
New Mexico and embarks on an ambitious economic development plan that rivals any other state in the country. The Act buys out stranded coal-burning generation assets, it provides for transition of the workforce, and provides milestones for each utility to convert to 100% carbon-free power. The Agile Fractal Grid intends to help implement the realization of the Act through a massive infrastructure program that actually generates triple the required baseload power so that the surplus revenues can be used to create an enormous number of new companies and jobs in the state. The implementation strategy centers around the use of a massive digital twin computer simulator designed by Agile Fractal Grid. This Industry 4.0 approach guides the development process every step of the way, from architectural conception and engineering design, through construction and commissioning, and, ultimately, daily operation. A key element in New Mexico's implementation of the Energy Transition Act is the emergence of the partnership between the state and private industry to promote the conversion to renewable, carbon-free power generation more rapidly than the ambitious goals laid out in the legislation. In addition, current plans are to shut down the Four Corners Generating Station, a complex of coal-fired power generation plants located on land leased from the Navajo Nation in direct response to environmental needs. The grand vision of capturing the ever-expanding market for safe, reliable and renewable electric power for neighbouring states will eventually be enabled by the new advances in high-voltage direct current transmission that are currently being introduced, one section at a time. New carbon fibre technologies can deliver a 10-fold increase in capacity along the current primary transmission routes, allowing for increased power load and density. Here we see an example of the Agile Fractal Grid in action whilst we simulate an outage. Some areas lose power, but can island themselves using combinations of backup power, distributed generation, and stored energy. Smart control systems allow the islands to network, potentially allowing for some power to be restored in affected areas, while the utility works to bring the dark areas back online. Soon, everyone is back on grid power as the microgrids reconnect with the utility. There is enormous computing power needed to operate the grid in this decentralized fashion. The measurements and corrections to the power harmonics now need to be made at a rate of 120 times per second at each critical junction. And since electricity is the most expensive part of operating a data center, it makes more sense to embed our computing power into the electric grid itself. New Mexico is planning for up to 10 gigabit service availability to every home in the state, rolled out with the new energy infrastructure. When implemented in concert with the physical deployment of a comprehensive smart infrastructure, this new asset becomes widely available, creating a new normal of super-fast internet to every home and device and providing tangible economic benefits and increases to real estate value. Mesa del Sol is the first smart city to go vertical in New Mexico. At present, Mesa del Sol has an experimental microgrid and also features underground gigabit broadband service to the sections already in place. While inspiring, even in its comparative infancy, the Mesa del Sol plan is to expand the fractal infrastructure with a unique Emera-inspired AC-DC power distribution system to all homes, businesses and offices. Additionally, easy-to-use mobile phone applications connect residents to essential real-time data, equipping residents with a simple tool in their own hands from which to learn about, experience, and even control almost every facet of their urban lives. At present, 5 additional smart cities are planned for New Mexico. Each will be unique with their own conditions and requirements based on the zest for life of the people who live there. A digital twin is a digital model of a physical asset, which continuously collects information via sensors, public data, or other IoT collection tools, and applies advanced analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to gain valuable real-time insights about the physical asset's performance, operation, or profitability. The intention is to use the digital twin not just for design, but for the integration of hardware solutions, system testing, functionality certification, construction management, and supporting production operations. The digital twin actually becomes integral to the daily operation of the facilities for real-time precision, safety, and reliability, and also for economic optimization. The digital twin serves to synchronize the massive efforts of large numbers of people by providing an efficient and infinitely expandable framework for progress. It is now within our grasp to lead the way towards the solution to the new current imperative to mankind, that of the transition to carbon-free energy. We care, we now have the means to do it, and we have the courage to make it happen. And along the way, we have the delightful prospect of bringing incredible broadband service to every citizen in our state as a side benefit of the new infrastructure. And best of all, the new digital marketplace and its Tech Utopia launchpad bring superb financial sustainability to the environment, to the new digital platform businesses it will enable, and to a new zest for life, as it should be in the land of enchantment in New Mexico.
Well, there you go. And this is really the evolution of the first project I did of this magnitude, which was called the Babcock Ranch, located in Florida, which actually it was the first U.S. complete solar city. We produce more energy in the Babcock Ranch than the entire city uses. But when I was doing that, this was prior to the 2008 meltdown. So the developer ended up converting it into a fairly normal design, build, sell homes kind of model, which is not what our long-term sustainability plan is. But regardless, the mathematics and the code that have matured over the last 2 decades now, since I first launched it, have really given us huge advantages. And we hope that by collaborating with other developers, other platforms, blockchain developers, other communities, China, Pacific Asia, we're hoping to do a project like this in the Philippines. That this collaboration leads to something that is really truly sustainable. I sometimes am considered a bit of a utopist or idealist. I do believe that all of us humans have the ability to achieve self-sovereignty or self-actualization. And, I think I live my life today just reaching out and helping to raise people up and to bring them out of fear and start to grow and develop life and things like this on their own. I'm a bit of an old fart, so today I'm hoping that the work that I've done over my lifetime will help instantiate these kind of visions for my great-grandchildren at some point.
This is really impressive and very inspiring as well. I think, a few things that really caught my attention in that video that we just played, right?
Mm-hmm.
That digital twin, and also other keywords like decentralized. And of course, in terms of the energy consumption, which is a big topic today, because I think Elon Musk just tweeted about it. And I think all of this have certain impact, in terms of not just how NFT artists should approach, their minting their work, but also in terms of cryptocurrency, right? How, is actually, having an impact on the environment. And there are many ways and technology and great work being done by you, for example, to actually improve the situation. So maybe we'll just dive in straight with digital twin, right? That's a concept that I actually just learned 24 hours ago when the chief metaverse officer, Kathy Hackle, came on to this show and told us her definition of the metaverse. And digital twin is one of the key components where, you have actually all this virtual world, which actually allows you to have better data collection, better control, and better ways of managing resources, right? So that's something that caught my attention, but we're not going to dwell on that. We're going to talk about this sustainability and your work as a chief sustainabilist. What's your reaction when you actually heard about Elon Musk's tweet about why Bitcoin is really, bad for the environment?
Well, first off, Bitcoin is not bad for the environment, and I'll tell you a little story. The folks that started Bitcoin never thought it would rise to the position that it has. and the issues related to, as an example, the additional complex math that goes into signing each blockchain was a hypothetical belief that we had to have complex math in order for there to be value associated with a digital token. The reality is that was never required in the first place. What caught everybody's attention with Bitcoin was the fact that they could obfuscate a very arcane, cumbersome global financial system. I mean, as an example, I was doing some work with a friend of mine who's in Malaysia. He has his primary bank accounts in Australia, and he wanted to do things in the US. And by the time the banks got done with taking their fees out of his wire transfers, et cetera, they gobbled up almost 20% of his money just to do a simple transaction. Where today you and I can trade non-fungible tokens or Ethereum or Bitcoin in seconds between each other with no interference from third parties. So what began to happen, prior to the pandemic, what began to happen is some really high net worth players realized that they could do the same thing they do with the stock market. They could manipulate and create hypothetical value with different coins, which led to the big rise of Bitcoin back in, after the 2008 kind of collapse that we had. So that eventually was, all the air was sucked up out of that when the supporters basically pulled their liquidity out of it. And of course, the value of Bitcoin dropped again. Then again, later, other investors begin to realize that, wait a minute, this digital currency gives us the ability to hold and articulate asset or value. And so they started playing around with this. Then, of course, the pandemic hits, and now everybody's trying to figure out how to get involved with this thing. You're seeing, multiple 1,000% increases in value, which is no different than how currency actually evolved in its current state. I mean, we can go back to the original Lydian lion, which was the first minted coin back in the 7th century, which was minted in kind of an interesting story. Lydia was a part of, which is today Turkey, part of Western Turkey. And they had this idea that at the churches where all the trade goes back and forth, they could mint a token or a currency that could be held for parties to later trade their wheat and grain and other products that they would trade. Well, that hence, by the way, the name Lydian Foundation, which also is a part of the evolution of the Lydian blockchain. But its goals and objectives are not just about digital currency and blockchain. It's about establishing language of standards between all the parties that are growing this remarkable digital infrastructure, which leads me to kind of the next major aspect of what's going on today. So let me give you an example. You and I are communicating, and we're doing this over a global broadband network. I'm currently up in Canada right now, and we're having these remarkable discussions. But as an example, if I was a musician or an author of a book, I could publish my book over that electronic medium. Now, as we begin to realize that I can replicate that book millions of times over with virtually no incremental increase in costs, which Amazon proved out in the economic model they call the long tail, all of a sudden the value of defining and measuring these concepts we call tokens has a new characteristic in our economy. So now, as an example, I can do a class. Or as an example, one of the things I like to do is I like to pull people aside and do tutorials and teach them how digital currencies actually work. And I don't charge anybody anything for this. But what happens is when they start making profits off of this, they dump a few of their tokens over into a pool, and I use that to instantiate other projects and things like that. It's a way of what we call the gift economy and how it rises to trusting other people to recognize and exchange value. So now if you begin to realize that digital currencies aren't really just about the ability to buy and sell illicit drugs on a black market. They are really about empowering each of us independently to harvest the value that we create in our culture and our economy. And I believe that over the next couple of years, the many developers and the many projects that are out there looking to achieve sustainability and decentralizations or democratization of the value structures that we have created as humans will evolve into things where we can allow technologies like artificial intelligence to measure and return that value that we create. For example, with Starlink network, which, by the way, I'm very pleased that we have a working agreement to bring their network into many of the emerging countries that we're working in today. I can plop down solar fields and batteries, a Starlink radio, put in some high dense computer technology, and that farm where we might build this is now generating tokens of value, which it can use in trade and exchange for other parts and things like that that it needs as the community grows. Meanwhile, it's supporting education, communications, and commerce, and healthcare for the community that it's supporting. It's a way that we now generate forms of value that wouldn't have been possible before. Another thing that back in, when was it? About a decade ago, I was invited to meet and tour a number of the island governors in several of the Pacific Islands who were very concerned about the seawater rise and things that they were trying to figure out how to sustain themselves and how to survive through. And I pointed out that the ocean is yet our most significant undeveloped or untapped natural resource, which, by the way, translated later into what people call the blue economy. So now what I'm working with a number of island nations who have exchanged what we call the establishment of free zones for us to come in and bring outside capital investment and launch into where we're discovering there are remarkable sources of untapped geothermal energy in our ocean reserves. We can now overpower the amount of energy needed to typically power an island nation and now begin to support things like research and development, food production, medicine development, research and development of things that we can't even imagine today, such as material technologies, all because island nations effectively are far less expensive to launch these kind of developments from than spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to develop mid-Pacific or Atlantic oil platforms converted to, science projects. So these are the kind of things that we're doing. I'm actively soliciting anybody that's interested or developing projects like this to come, join with us, just collaborate. There's more capital to throw at this than you can possibly imagine. You just have to have people willing to take the first step and make these activities real, like we're doing today.
Sign me up. There's so many things that you mentioned that I feel so. I agree 100% wholeheartedly. I think you mentioned about the gig economy, the blue economy. These are all the things that I think are probably coming to the fore right now in 2021, right? I think NFT artists are another form, where they are actually generously giving away NFTs as well. You see some who are cashing in, but there's some NFT artists who are giving away NFTs. So that's probably one of the the acts that epitomize this gift economy, right? And when you mentioned that, I immediately reconnect to one of the things I plan to do next week. I'm actually giving away 1,000 NFTs. And
Oh,
I'm
really? Fantastic.
my podcast episodes into NFTs, thousands of them as proof of listenership. And these NFTs are going to be available for free. So for anyone who's interested, just like this shared capitalism model, right, which it's working really well in terms of like your people who support your cause or your movement or your Leading Foundation, either your partners or some of your acquaintances, when they believe in your cause and they believe in the underlying value as well. Yeah. Especially when it comes to cryptocurrency, when it comes to NFTs. Yeah. Like the utility, the community, the access, the IP, the humans and the craftsmen, these are all have very incredible long-term ramifications, right? And especially for a thoughtful project like the Leading Foundation. So I'm really interested in your blockchain in terms of Leading, how you compare versus to Bitcoin, how it compares versus to Ethereum. Maybe you can educate us on that.
Sure. The Lydian blockchain is based on it's called a sharding approach, where the blockchains themselves are much smaller. And as an example, they're capable of functioning in a device as small as, like one of your cell phone, essentially. So in effect, you're driving an electric car and it's got a big computer in it. It effectively can be generating and participating in the blockchain itself. Because of its mathematical model, which is something we call a rotational keyless method of encryption and encoding, it effectively eliminates the vulnerabilities that we have in today's blockchain technology. So as an example, you sign your wallet with a AES encryption standard, which admittedly is very difficult to crack, but it's static, it's stagnant. So if I want to apply computing power against your 1,000 Bitcoins that's in your wallet, once I've got access to some better quantum computing or other computing resources, eventually I can crack your wallet. And that's not healthy for our reliance on that information and that information store. So the Lydian blockchain is effectively, even though it's a democratized structure, it's closed and trusted. So when information is registered in the ledger of the blockchain itself, you have the ability to rely that information remains intact, and it remains intact regardless of how much computing power you can throw against the information, which is that along with the extremely high transaction capacity of the blockchain are the two factors that differentiate against, as an example, even Ethereum, which is working slowly to try to move to what we call a proof of stake from a proof of work, where a proof of stake means that you have anything to do with performing services to the blockchain that you're going to get recognized for it in terms of value contribution. But you're still solving a very, very complex mathematical problem, which simply is not necessary. And we've proven that over and over again. All we really need to do is have retention and security of the information associated with the signing of a blockchain. We don't need it to be achieved in a highly complex mathematical format.
So when comparing blockchains like Lydian versus Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? How does it compare? Is it a fraction, of the energy, and it's more efficient than Ethereum and many times more efficient than Bitcoin as well?
Absolutely. So a Lydian blockchain can run on your Raspberry Pi computer, okay, for 10 to the 6th level reduction in energy costs.
Can we say 100,000 times more efficient than Bitcoin?
Many billions of times more efficient than Bitcoin. Okay. So as an example, today, our Bitcoin engines, the Bitcoin miner network out there, actually consumes more power than the entire country of Argentina, just to give you some relevant numbers, where the Lydian blockchain is capable of performing millions of times the transactions that move across the Bitcoin blockchain, which, by the way, arguably is 4 to 7 transactions a minute. It's ridiculous, okay? At the cost of plugging a computer into a solar farm that we do in the Lydian blockchain. So these factors arguably will begin to make these kind of blockchains available for us to do things like, for example, store our private health records or store our private financial records without being concerned about paying a very expensive transaction fee just to register that. I mean, if you look at right now, even Ethereum, the cost of the fees associated with my moving my Ether from one wallet to another wallet is actually pretty substantial when that wasn't our intent to begin with.
How about the impact in terms of, we all know that NFT artists love to mint their music or their collectibles or their art on the Ethereum blockchain, right? So if we're using this delegated proof of stake blockchain, which is Lydian, can they also mint their, collectibles on this Lydian chain as well?
At relative economic cost, a fraction of what it's costing. Excuse me, running out of voice here today. Where it's costing to register a transaction on a blockchain like Ethereum today.
Which means that they can amplify the gig economy model, right? Because it's so cheap to mint and it's so affordable and consumes so little energy. In terms of gas fees, it's like they could mint 1,000 NFTs for a penny, and then they can reward their fans with these tokens, and without having to spend so much on gas fees, which is ridiculous right now on the Ethereum blockchain.
Exactly, and that kind of goes against the model that we originally came up with. If you go back to the original book called Digital Gold, we kind of didn't even conceive of some of the things that we're running into today. But by the way, I will share with you, I've run across maybe a half a dozen very, very well-formed groups and other foundations that are beginning to work at this level of developing similar concepts in their blockchains. The Lydian Foundation is not aimed at displacing other people's work. It's really aimed at how it is that we define standards by which we can communicate with each other, which is what Polkadot was originally intended to do. But we're doing another thing that I think is equally as important. And we're helping to identify what we call digital bias. Digital bias is when, even unintentionally, that we, have bias against an Asian face versus a Caucasian face, as an example. That shouldn't be the case in our digital models. Our digital and AI systems should take people on at their true value and not be biased as to whether or not they're 60 years old or 17, or they're male or female, or regardless of what.
That's why pseudo anonymity is taking off, right, in a huge way.
It is, but we still, in that anomaly that we have, we're still, our AIs are pulling out levels of bias that we never intended that to occur. So anyway, that's one of the other major goals of the Lydian Foundation, is to have open dialogue and open disclosure where we can start to discover and help repair and correct digital bias when it occurs.
Before we let you go, Mark, we really enjoyed this conversation. I learned so much from you in this last 30 minutes. Just want to ask you, about your future ambitions or side projects.
I right now I'm engaged in a couple of complete island nations that want to revamp and follow this model. So I'm pleased that I'm face to face with the prime ministers and people at that level. I've got Simon Anholtz as one of my principal advisors. We've identified a population that supports these concepts today in the world that exceeds 800 million people. And I do hope that in the next year or two, that we will be able to establish a virtual country and give these kind of goals and ideals and democratization of how we live and work together, principally to the world.
You're referring to a physical country, right? Not creating your own metaverse, right?
So both. In the case of forming our own physical country, we've got island nations that are working with us to accomplish that. But what we intend to do is to create a virtual country where you can have a passport, let's say a Lydian passport, that makes you a member of that country. And that passport gives you free access back and forth to all these emerging, developing communities and cities that we're working to grow in forms of collaboration, of which there are literally hundreds in various planning stages today. And
actually, the first time I heard of it was when I was following this band called Leibach. They are an industrial band from Europe. They actually issue their own passports. So you had a similar concept.
Yeah, similar concept.
I love that.
We're not trying to replace your Hong Kong or Singapore passport or American passport. We're trying to augment it with a new kind of passport. And if you think about the evolution of economics, the sovereign nation of countries today is almost outlived their purpose. So we're becoming a world of nations that must collaborate with each other because we're all faced with some common problems. COVID-19 is just the tip of the iceberg for what your kids and my great-grandkids are going to have to focus on as we're dealing with relatively major environmental changes in the next 100 years.
We definitely need to do a follow-up episode with you, Mark, because we learned so much, and we want to go even deeper into some of the things that you have mentioned. The blue economy, I think we haven't even touched that yet. So can we maybe re-invite you back on to our podcast probably sometime next week? Please join our Discord server first. So we'll discuss how we can do another session with you with our Discord community. In the meantime, how can people reach you?
Best way to reach me is go to lydianfoundation.org. There's some connectivity there. Oh, wow, there you go. You've got it up. There you go. Go there. Send me a message. Happy to reply. I'm doing a lot of traveling coming up in June.
Are you coming to Asia anytime this year?
I've been invited. The way that they're restricting pandemic related travel, I'm not sure yet. So I would like to be able to come down. I've got one of my colleagues, Professor Michael Soon, who's actively engaged in the large-scale cross-border banking and other related things in our digital currency world, is based, actually he's a professor at one of the universities in China, but he's based out of Hong Kong.
It would be a dream to have you, speak to our audience here in Singapore. So hopefully, in October, we can make it happen, but we'll just see how this pandemic situation pans out. Yeah,
we can always do a virtual call
in Singapore for the past 1 month. So we are just praying that things will work out. And when we do our first in real life, in-person events, and you'll be one of our speakers to educate us on these areas. So thank you so much.
Happy to. Thank you so much
for agreeing to do this. And I'll chat with you very, very soon. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Take care, Mark. Good night. Dean, how are you, my friend?
Hey, good. Yeah.
Can you imagine 2 years ago, South by Southwest? I think, were you playing at, which club was that? It wasn't Dirty Dog's Bar, right?
No. It's a Red?
Yeah, I think so.
Red 7 or 9, I can't remember now.
I think it's shut down permanently.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. A lot of venues are hit hard.
Yeah, that was a place where I got this T-shirt from you.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to your records. It's for the past 2 years, especially the pandemic, I've been spinning a lot of your records. So your band has a very profound influence on me, and I love your music, and I'm looking forward to the new one. Tell us about the new project, the new album. Yeah.
Oh well, it's funny because we we were working on it for, I don't know, it's a while now, because we were gonna put it out last year, and then it just kind of got shelved because we were like, what do we do? We can't tour, we can't support this record. And then we ended up sitting on it and kept on reworking it, writing more songs. So it kind of changed a lot too. There's like a bunch of other tracks that are just going to be sitting on the computer for a while if they ever come out. I don't know. But so it kind of evolved that way. But it's done, and we decided because of the pandemic, like we're just going to start releasing tracks monthly as opposed to just dropping the record. So we're just every month one or two songs are going to come out every month until the end of the year. So it's a different approach.
It kind of reminds me of how Trent Reznor, right? When he was releasing his EPs, that was a time when he totally, went opposite of album and decided to put like songs, like sporadically, as a way to actually give the fans like a taste, of what's to come. So this model has it been working well so far for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been working great, actually. It's weird. It's not like you don't get that massive spike where it's like, oh, hey, there's an album and all this, but we're able to sustain it for longer, right? And which I think makes more sense with how everybody, digests music and media and content or whatever now. They want stuff all the time as opposed to like, hey, here's this album for 1 month, and if you can't support it with touring, it just kind of dies out. So I think this model makes more sense for a band like us. We write music all the time. So to me, it feels like if this is working, we'll probably just keep going with that into next year and into the future, as long as, it seems like it's working. So
this new single is called Impossible, right? Tell us, what inspired? Did you have a playlist that actually songs that inspire you, to make this particular single sound the way it is?
Yeah, it's weird because this was the first track we did for this album, and we were just trying to come up with ideas, and we were just going through my hard drive to find is there any old demos or something that would work, and me and Denham were like listening to the tracks, and he heard that one. He's like, that's a cool song. We could make something out of that. So we kind of dissected the track and the core of the song was still there, but we kind of like stripped out all the elements, redid the drums, made it more like electronic, and kind of just revised it and released it. So I like this version a lot better than the original, but
what I noticed, when I was playing it on my AirPods, right, the production is like you guys have gone to the next level. It sounds so good. And
thanks,
yeah, how did you do that?
I just been doing this for so long now. It's honestly because we self-produce, so it's like it's been like a goal to just. I mean, when we started out, I was into lo-fi music, so it was like I was trying to do lo-fi and run everything through analog tapes and stuff, but as we've kind of gone on, it's like I've gotten obsessed with, production. It's funny you say that because like even when we sent it to the master and engineer, he was just like, "This is some of the best mixes I've ever heard." And I was like, we were like, "Yeah, okay, we're doing it. Like it's working." But he was, I don't know, like, maybe we could produce some other bands. I don't know. I'd love to get into that next.
Yeah, if I have a band right now, I will ask you to help me produce my album because, definitely artists, creators, musicians out there, they're all really interested to know, what's the digital music software that you use to create all these great sounding, singles, and from professional tools to even like what you mentioned, those amateur tools, right? Lo-fi tools. Can you share with musicians, what helps bring your imagination to life?
Well, I mean, we mostly work in Logic, which is nothing crazy, right? I think everybody can get a copy of Logic. And actually, I was listening. What was that guy's name? Shabib 40. He does like Drake's production. This is a few years back, and I was watching an interview with him, and he was just like, "Oh, I just do it with all like the basic plugins that come with Logic." I was like, "Are you serious?" Because you get obsessed with gear Like I've been always like, I have to buy this new piece of gear to do all this stuff. And it was like kind of a few years ago, I reset, just deleted everything, got rid of all my expensive stuff, and like started from scratch and see like what you can achieve from that. And we kind of like, even with the last record with No Pop and the Reaction EP, like we had a very minimal setups for that, but we got, at least for No Pop, we got a lot of good analog gear to do that. Like my friend had a studio, he let us borrow like a nice Moog and, you know, an MS-20. Like it was pretty sweet. Like, so we got to play around with that, but on Reaction, we had like almost nothing. Like we recorded on an H6, and I was like, okay, can we make a record on an H6 for like Zoom recorder and still have it sound good? And it came out great. So I was like, okay, maybe we don't need all this stuff. Like with this record, because we had more time, I just like spent more time on the production, like just mixing. Like some of these tracks, like they're probably way over mixed or something, but if they sound good, they sound good. But I don't know if there's like necessarily a big secret other than we build the tracks up and then, you know, get them sounding good. But out of the basic tools, I did buy some like nice plugins though. Like I got the Fab Filter stuff, that was definitely, and if I could recommend any kind of plugins, like the Fab Filter bundle, like especially the EQs, or just the EQ on there is just, it's amazing. And it's like amazing how much you could do with just EQing properly before you get too far in. Just like EQ is so much, like I didn't pay too much attention before, but leaving space for each instrument to kind of, you know, have its own spot is a big deal. And then afterwards, you know, we got like put live drums on top. We got, you know, we put any synth ideas we had, we like took them and put them through like a Moog as opposed to like digital synths. So it was more like layering on top and then guitars on top. So it's like, it kind of brought it to life. So it wasn't so, you know, dead. Sometimes like when everything's too much in the box, I find it a little bit dead. So it's just trying to bring out those elements by adding like live instrumentation on top. So that's the gist of it. There's nothing like too crazy other than I think it's just years and years. Unfortunately, that's like, it's just so much time put into learning like what sounds good. There's no big secret other than the years that it took to get to that point. Yeah,
and it's all this, you know, experimentation and improving your craft, right?
Yeah.
Even when you mentioned about the EQ strategy, I recently started equalizing, you know, my podcast show, right? It sounds better, and it took me, what, 2 years to discover that? So it's like, you need to actually keep on, you know, grinding before you reach there, right? I think your band is about to actually break with this great sounding record. I think it's one of the probably one of the best things I've heard this year. So I'm really excited when you agreed to actually come on to this show and talk about that, you know, new work. Just want to ask you, you know, I remember the last time when I was walking past Barracuda, right, and I heard the sound of your band. And immediately I was compelled to, you know, by what's coming out from the club. I went in and I discovered, wow, you guys have a very minimalistic setup, but it looks amazing, even though it's minimalistic. So are you one of the, you know, one of those people who actually support like less is more, and less is more is definitely something that still continuously will work, you know, in 2021 and in the future?
I mean, that's been a big thing too. Like, I think when we started, specifically like the first couple albums, it was just like maximalism, like how many tracks are playing, like just, you know, I was like really, I mean, I love industrial music, but I also like loved shoegaze, so I was trying to incorporate those two. So it was like trying to create these massive walls of sound, but it's like trying to perform some of that stuff live was just like, okay, you can't. It gets too much, and like sometimes to get to the core of a song, like to make it really good, you know, you have to strip everything away, and if the song still holds up, then you really have something. And sometimes like you kind of cover that up with too many elements. So, and on top of that, because we were touring and doing so much for so long, it's like at a certain point you don't want to be carrying all this gear around, and it's like, how can you refine and make the most efficient system like to work? Like even with the lights incorporated, like everything, right? We wanted to have a whole complete show and not sacrifice any of the sound elements, but everything's about efficiency with us, like, and it's constantly being refined and refined and refined. So I feel like that's kind of how we ended up with the more minimalistic approach, but actually made the songs better in the end, I think. So on this stuff, we're gonna see, because we're just starting to like try to figure out how we're gonna perform some of this, and it's not as simple as some of the other stuff. So I don't know. We might be in for some trouble. I don't know.
How much more prep time do you have before you go on tour again? You just announced some new dates for this year, right?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, we're getting like the good tour offers already, and I want to tour, but I'm also like everybody else, I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. Like, we finally got vaccinated, at least one dose here. So I'm still waiting. Are you guys vaccinated yet? Are you guys?
Not yet. We are the last, as in because of my age group, right? My mom has already got the twice, so I'll be next. Probably the next couple of months, I'll be vaccinated too. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we just got it. So I don't know. I mean, the States is opening up, so like most of our shows are supposed to be in the States. So I don't know. We have about I'd say like 4 months, 4 to 6 months, but like we just got cold waves for September, but that, I mean, we'll see. It's supposed to be a very
optimistic date, right? A very optimistic date to do it in October.
I know, it's like, is it gonna happen? But I mean, I really want to play it. I love Cold Waves. I mean, I've been a fan of that festival, and like I don't know like how familiar are with Acumen as well, like the band that kind of created the festival, because I grew up with them, like listening to their music. So I was like, oh, I knew about their whole kind of lineage, and then even getting the festival. So to me, I was really excited about getting to be a part of it. So it's pretty cool.
Was it as exciting as meeting Martin Atkins from Pigface when you were at South by Southwest 2 years ago in 2019?
That was surreal. Did I tell you about that? I can't remember. How would you know?
I
that?
read it on social, but I wanted to tell me the full story right now. Yeah. Well, how was
that?
It
was hilarious. Yeah. We were just like walking out from a show, and like nobody else recognized it. I'm like, it's fucking Mark and Atkins, man. Like, what the hell? Is just like walking by me, and he was super nice. He stopped. We chatted for like 15, 20 minutes. Like, he like even we messaged back and forth for a bit. I sent him like some music and stuff. So I don't know. He's a super nice guy. Obviously a huge fan, and like Pill as well. Like, that's crazy. Like, the guy's got a huge history. Playing in Ministry too, and yeah.
9 Inch Nails. I think he played. Yeah. He came out with a little drumming on Wish, right? On 9 Inch Nails Grammy Award single.
So good, so good.
That guy's an innovator. Yeah, he's going to come up with a museum for industrial music in Chicago.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. I just saw him posting something like that, I think on his socials or on a newsletter, because I subscribe to his newsletter. So I've been dying to get him on this show as well to tell us about his museum.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's something that we all been waiting for, right?
Yeah. I mean, I actually, but I guess, when was that now? 2019. I went to the Wax Tracks, the show with where they had the documentary and everything. And it was awesome, man. Like, that was like, to me, it was like a childhood dream. And then Ministry and Cold Cave played. It was awesome. Like, I'm a huge Ministry fan. Like, I grew up with Ministry, so he played all the old school hits for me. So I was happy, and it's really cool to see the history of that label, and it was awesome. They had like a huge panel. They had Thrill Kill Cult and was there, and even Paul Barker was on the panel, and Chris Conley and stuff. It was cool. Yeah, it was cool, man.
These are all our heroes, right? And what would I would give, just to be there, and that happened 2 years ago. So can you imagine? I still have never attended a Ministry show, but I've attended your show, and it's like, my bucket list band. I just need to see Al Jorgensen, do his stuff on TV once before I kick the bucket. So I'm just praying that will happen this year, not next year, So it's like, you're talking about Ministry, and we want to talk about Ministry because Land of Rib and Honey was a huge album that impacted your musical career and journey and influenced your sound a little bit as well, right?
Oh, 100%. That was like my sister's. I remember. I think I don't know. I was like, whenever that came out, I can't remember. They gave me that record. I think I was like 7 or something, and I was like, I didn't even understand it. I was like, I was afraid of it for like a while, but it was like as soon as it clicked, it was like that was it for me. Like that would like just open up the door. Like I just loved industrial like ever since then. So it was like that was one of the first records I ever kind of got that got me into that kind of music for sure. And it seems so far ahead of its time. Like it still holds up. I think like whenever I listen to them, like so many fresh ideas, and it still sounds really cool, and it's kind of punky, but it has all these different elements. Like even for industrial at that time, the way they used the guitars and the sampling, and like reading about how they even created, like they were cutting up all the tracks on the like with actual tape, right, and sticking it back together. You know, just randomly putting different orders, like putting in a different order to see what was working. It's kind of a crazy process, but they turned out with such a cool record that still holds up today, and must have influenced tons and tons of people. And I know like Trent Reznor was super influenced by Twitch as well, right? That's like the big one.
Yeah, and when I age, right? Because I've been playing that record so much, I grew to like Side B more because of the electronic tracks, and the more diverse tracks are on the other side, right? Side A is more funky. Side B has some gems like Flashback and What You Want.
Like Flashback's the best.
Songs that are rocking in a club. I heard for the first time ever being played in a club in New York at the I think it was in the Village. And it was amazing. The whole club basically got re-energized when Flashback was on, and that song came out in 1988. Right? So incredible.
Still works, man. Still works. That's the crazy part. Yeah.
Have you been noticing a trend in NFT, where musicians are like, I think Kings of Leon, they are the most prominent band to do that. And then Weezer also launched their NFT recently. What's your perspective on NFTs? And is it something that you would dive into with your band next?
Well, we've actually talked about it, and we talked about it with the label. I'm actually like, we're a very crypto friendly band. Like I'm actually really into cryptocurrency, like a lot. I love it. But the NFT thing, like as soon as I saw that Kings of Leon was putting out an NFT, I was like, this already jumped the shark. Like I don't know. Like I know it's not going anywhere, but I'm kind of at the wait and see approach right now, because I don't even know if something like that would work for a band like us. Even though we are like technologically friendly, I'm not sure if we could sell an NFT. I don't know. And if we did, I'm not sure how to approach it. And then there's obviously like the big backlash is like, a lot of bands are getting is the environmental aspects of NFTs, especially like on the Ethereum network. And then obviously today waking up to this like Elon Musk dump, that wasn't awesome either. And that was also environmentally driven. So I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. I mean, I know I could do the art. It's not that. It's just I don't know what the right approach is and what the right sites to even use for it. I'm sure you must have had some guests on here that, there's, I don't know if you can recommend a good site to start, but I did one on. Yeah,
I do podcasting, right? Because I don't know. As in, I'm totally ignorant of NFTs even before February. The first time I heard about it was on a podcast. And, I've been actually talking to Justin K. Broderick, Godflesh.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and,
I love Godflesh, man. I love Godflesh.
Street Cleaner, come on.
Yeah, I know.
And the last album was...
I love his solo stuff. It's awesome, too. I really like this like electronic stuff.
Oh yeah. He has so many great output, right? JK Flash.
Yeah, JK Flash is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
it's been really interesting, talking to musicians about their perspective and their thoughts about NFT. And he gave his thoughts because we were texting each other on Messenger. He was saying that due to his need to get THC goods in the UK, right? So he has been using Bitcoin for some time already. And just like any other musicians, he's also wondering, like, what's my relationship with the NFT thing? So I told him that I'm also totally new in this. I'm also learning, and I'm basically borrowing the wisdom from everyone who comes onto my show, telling me which website to check out as well. So, like, to your question, right, about which website to start, I think Wax.io is the one to get started. Because the problem with many musicians and artists right now, when they want to mint either a digital art into an NFT, is the high gas fees, right? And also the energy consumption aspect of it. Because Ethereum is not built for NFTs. And that's something that I learned by talking, during my podcast to all these guests who are NFT experts. The blockchain that are designed for NFTs are not Bitcoin, are not Ethereum, are actually other chains like Wax, Engine, Flow, Phantasma chain. So I'm like throwing a lot of the very strange names.
Like, I have a little bit of
that you can check out and get started is Wax.io. After this, just Google hard. I think by next week, you'll probably be rewarding all your fans with thousands of NFTs that you mint for just a penny. Because it's so cheap to get it done, and it doesn't really have impact on the environmental aspect. So I think it's something that your fans like me will back 100,000%. In fact, my podcast, right? I'm gonna mint 1,000 NFTs by next week, and actually giving away free. Yeah, so that is like proof of listenership for people who actually listen to this particular podcast we play with you. For example, they will be able to see in their public wallet that they have listened to this episode featuring Tzenos from Tzenos, and that is something that when you want to actually find out more about someone new, first thing that you would do probably in the next 5 years, right, would be to look at their public wallet. Do they own collectibles by ministry? Do they actually heard a podcast featuring Odonis? These are the things that will connect us together, because right now we're all disconnected. There's no way for us to know our mutual interest. NFTs does that. Yes, this fantastic way of showing off our interests, our common interests, and whether we're in the same tribe. So I've been doing this NFTs and learning so much, and I think by the time you also get around to doing NFTs, right? Many other bands are also interested in doing it. I think Justin Cabral already is exploring this. He's just like a bit, disconcerted with the fact that if he's involved in NFTs, it would invite a lot of negativity, especially for those fans who are thinking that NFTs consume lots of energy. It's bad for environment. It's a cash grab. It's not. It's a way, for us to actually be more connected. And I think your fan base wants to be more connected with you. And through NFTs, you can achieve that.
Yeah, well, I think that I like the proposition of NFTs. I think is fantastic. Like, especially for musicians. Like, if they can figure out a way that we're able to distribute music straight to the fans through NFTs, and with art and music and the the music videos and all that stuff as well. Like, I'm all for it. It's just like, how does that work on the back end? That's my other question is, like, how does this work legally? Because, like, I know, like, people have just randomly been making NFTs out of other people's art and selling it. There's no legal
parody art, right? That is like based on copyrighted characters.
Like, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be sorted out, I think, first before it can really work the way I think it will. But I'm really excited for it. Like, I think it's going to be game changing. And I like that it's adding value back to art, because it's been devalued to the degree that's, like, it's been almost worthless for a lot of stuff. Like, even I was watching a bit of your podcast, I think it was from yesterday, and the guy was mentioning how, he's doing art on Instagram and stuff, and it was just for free and wasn't expecting anything. All of a sudden now he's making tons of money off the same art, right? So it's like a huge shift in how people like see art and value art. So I think that's really important and needs to happen.
100%. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think, there are definitely some marketplaces, like I think Foundation, which you can invite before you can actually mint your work there. So it's very gated, very exclusive, very curated place to actually list your NFTs. There there are also other platforms like Wax, right? Which allow anyone to just get started, and even connecting your wallet is as simple as just logging in with your Facebook account. So there are different ways of doing it. So I would say the easiest way is wax.io. Do check it out.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm not a spokesperson for them because I'm also new at this, but I just like how they are doing it, which is not to alienate fans, right? What we don't want to do is alienate our own people. So it's really very interesting to see what you'll be up to next. I think with a new single, new album, right? That's already exciting for us. But if you could mint some of your, your NFT graphics work, like if you have someone who designed that, who does your artwork, by the way?
We do, I'd say 90% of it ourselves. Yeah. Because
that could be animated, right? Yeah, if you could animate it, move, we would actually, happily, donate or contribute financially to that piece of art, so that we could be the probably 10 people in the world, or 10 or those fans in the world who owns it, and then that's something for us to actually show off. On my public wall, I can only show off my T-shirt, but I can't show off that I own something that is actually in my public wallet. I think that's the part that I think social media is going to be evolving in the next few weeks as well, which allow us to not just take a peek at someone's job title or what bands they like, right? But to actually allow us to show off our collectibles. So it'd be great to be able to show off my collection of minor records of your band.
It's cool that you actually mentioned it like that, because I didn't totally see it that way, actually. But it's true that a lot of people have collections and you have similar tastes, but you don't really see people's collections, Like if you're into certain games or certain types of music, like we're both big industrial fans, right? So it's like, but how do you know that? Is it on social media and stuff? Now this is like a big connector, so that it is cool. I like that aspect of it.
Exactly. Like there's no way I could prove that I was at your show at South by Southwest in 2019, but this NFT is gonna just change the entire attendance or concert going experience and how you actually even distribute tickets, right? Because everything will be an NFT. Your concert tickets or the ticket to get an entry to a club, that will be an NFT, and that's the way where we cannot be connected. Like who owns that? 100 audience at your show 2 years ago. Who are they? There's no way to prove it right now. But if NFT was around during then, I could have actually shown that NFT in my wallet, and people will actually connect with me because I was one of those people at your show, and that's something that we want to shout out, and
that's actually really cool. That's actually really cool. It's a good way of thinking of it. It's good you're getting all this information, because it's giving me some insights to how this could work. Because it's like, you could get a ticket stub, right? It's like, because I actually have like a bag of all these ticket stubs. I've been to like so many shows, right? So it's like, instead of collecting it like that, you get an NFT when you go to the show, maybe in an exclusive track or a piece of art that's like only the people that went to that specific show have, right? And then that in itself could have value down the road.
It's like the Led Zeppelin gig at Madison Square Garden, I think in 1974, right? That ticket stub is worth $100,000 right now on eBay. So imagine 20 years from now, when you win a Grammy Award with your band, right? That NFT of me going to your show at South by Southwest 2019 would be 100x, 1000x. It's like a shared capitalism model where we are all egging you on because we want you to be successful. If I own one of NFTs, I would want to promote you. I would want you to be the next winner. So because my interest is no longer as a fan who's just consuming your content. I'm someone who is also like a shared investor, investing, not just in terms of like buying your records, but really hoping to see you well. I think this NFT will really bring that connection, together so much.
That's awesome. No, you're getting me pumped about this. I'm glad you're learning all this.
Anyway, Mark Curtis, he's also a big industrial fan. He got his first Wax XP last night. He's going to drop his NFT. He's a musician as well. I think he's watching this live stream right now.
Oh, nice.
So, he missed South by Southwest. Well, everyone missed South by Southwest,
That's cool.
So Before we let you go, I just want to maybe do a quick rapid fire round. Are you up for it?
A rapid fire round?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Here are the rules. You must give me really short and pithy response to my barrage of questions. Maybe one sentence or two maximum. So, are you ready?
I'll try. Okay.
Let's go.
For it.
What are your proudest life moments?
Oh, I don't know. Playing with Front 242, probably.
Oh, that's a good one. What do you want doing less of in 2021?
Eating bad food.
What do you want doing more of in 2021?
More music.
Your advice for artists and musicians who are watching this right now?
Persistence.
Any future ambitions or side projects?
Yeah, actually, like working on a show, TV show.
How can people reach you?
They can hit us up at adonis@adonis.com. You can email us, or it's easy to get in contact with us.
Fantastic. It's always a joy, having a conversation with you. I remember we had a short chat immediately after your show at South by Southwest 2 years ago. I hope that you'll play there, in the near future, and be there to see it once again. If not, I hope to invite your band over to Asia, to Singapore.
We'd love
for our
to.
audience here
We would
in
love
the
to,
near
man.
future.
Yeah, that'd be
It'll be a
fantastic.
dream day,
Yeah.
All right, man.
Cool.
Thanks so much, Vin. I really appreciate you, and keep rocking and keep coming out with all these great sounding albums and singles. I love your latest record so much. So I'll see you really, really soon, and take care of yourself. Send my regards to the rest of the band as well.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
Bye-bye. Cheers. See ya.
Thanks.
That's Dean, and one of my heroes, industrial heroes who are basically taking industrial music to the next level. Do check out their release. It's called Spectrums. Of course, they are dropping singles, sporadically. So you can go to the Bandcamp and do check it out. Maybe I'll just put the URL right here so that you could actually, hit the browser button and go straight to their website and check out the music right away. Adonis, bandcamp.com. That's the URL. Go check it out. So in the meantime, I'm going to take a break. I'll be back with 8 more guests and many NFT artists who are coming on to maybe share some of their experiences with NFTs so far. And Mark, shout out to you, Mark. And thanks for tuning in as well and commenting on this live stream. Maybe you could share, with us your first experience getting your first wax pee last night. Just hit me up. Maybe we could schedule you to come on and have a chat with us. So, Mark Curtis, this is an invitation to you to come on to the show later on. So, with that, I'm going to sign out and I'll be back later on. Goodbye.